Hello, my name is Yuliya. I'm an English teacher and a teacher trainer. I also blog about English language teaching, and my blog and Instagram is called cupofelt. And sometimes I get questions from my followers, which I would love to answer, but I feel like Instagram doesn't necessarily lend itself to certain questions being answered there. It either takes me so much time to answer them in the format of stories, or it's too difficult to squeeze it all in into the format of reels. So I thought, what if we take that outside of Instagram and bring it onto YouTube? This could work. So this is a pilot episode of a new series which is called Yuliya's Sips and Solutions. If you hate it, please let me know. We could change the name. But I'm going to be answering 3 questions that I got from my lovely followers on my blog. I'm going to answer them here. So the first question reads, any advice for new teachers who are about to start working soon for a very first time? First of all, I know how it feels. I've been there. I've done that. I remember the first class that I ever taught. I walked into the classroom and I got like red spots all over my body and my face just because I was so stressed and so nervous. So I feel you. We all have been there. It is very stressful. I don't think you can be like fully prepared. It's going to be nerve-wracking no matter how well prepared you are. But anyways, I just want to say that teaching, in my personal opinion, is the best job that you could think of, just because it gives you so much room for development and growth. You can keep on learning. And I know that a lot of people kind of find it exhausting, so they see it as a curse of sorts. But I think this is so empowering. You get to stay a lifelong learner. You can always improve yourself. You can always try a new approach, a new technique, a new exercise, a new course book, a new type of students to teach. So it's really, really exciting. My number 1 tip would be follow the course book and teacher's book especially. A lot of modern course book, I'm not saying that all of the course books, but like a lot of good modern course books have a very good teacher's book. If you open a page in the course book, you would see that there is a sequence of activities. So one activity follows the other, and there is a reason for that. They're there for a very good reason. Look at the way the course books are structured. I mean, the activities are sequenced, the instructions are given. You may pick some ideas up as you progress. So basically, you kind of make it your own. You watch, observe, and then you can later imitate that. Why I recommend reading the teacher's book. Sometimes, especially if you're a beginning teacher, I can relate to that myself. Sometimes you open the course book and it's not really clear why a certain activity is in that place. What's the point of that? Shouldn't we be focusing on something else instead? But good course books have very detailed explanation explaining the rationale behind every activity. So I think that if I had to restart my teaching career right now, I would probably follow the course book and I would read the teacher's book, making sure that I get the notes behind the certain lesson, just because I think it could give me a better understanding of the structure of the lesson, different types of the lessons. For example, there are skills lessons like reading, writing, speaking. There are systems lessons like vocabulary, vocabulary, grammar, and stuff like that. So when I analyze the course books, mind you, a good one, not just like any course book, but there are some good modern course books that you can fall back on and analyze them and get some knowledge that would help you pave the way for your future continuous development. So yeah, just like following the course book, trusting a group of professional teachers and materials designers who worked really hard to make sure that they help you. I know that there is a lot of pressure nowadays that teachers need to create tailor-made materials. They need to design their own courses from scratch to meet their students' specific requirements and specific needs. And I think that in order to do that, we first need to understand like the basics of teaching, and following the course book and following the teacher's book can really help us do that. I actually think that sometimes as a teacher, as an experienced teacher myself, I benefit from following the course book just because there are some activity sequences that I wouldn't have come up with. So it kind of helps me to teach a lesson written by someone else. It gives me some platform to reflect, to see whether certain things worked for me. And I can kind of tweak little things as I go through the course book and I move through the activities. So my advice would be, just follow the course book. My tip number 2 is don't worry and ask for help, ask for advice, especially if you're working within some sort of an institution like a school or something like that. reach out to your colleagues, use them as the ultimate resource of knowledge and experience, and ask them for any advice. Another kind of side tip from that is don't worry and invite some teachers to observe your lessons. Before you do that, remember that the aim of lesson observation is not to police you, but it's like help you see some of your blind spots. Before you invite anyone in, I would suggest that you focus on like a couple of things that you want to improve. For example, that could be like how I give instructions, or how are my students, how much my students are involved into the process. Are there any students who are kind of left behind or something along these lines? So like select one or two practical things that you want to be improving and you want to be working on. And then when you invite someone over, like a colleague, or I don't know, maybe you record a lesson if you teach online and then send it to someone over, tell them what exactly you want them to focus on. So like tell them about your 2-3 aims that you have set for yourself in the beginning of that, so they know what to look for. And again, go and observe some lessons yourself. This is such a cool thing that you can do. And I learned so much as a teacher when I observed other teachers teach. And I don't know if you are attending any language classes yourself, but I remember that I did in the beginning of my teaching career, and it really helped me. So I could analyze the things that my teacher was doing. I could see the things that were particularly effective in my opinion, and I could bring them into my classroom. Generally, I think that one tip, the main thing that you can do as a teacher in terms of development is like, if you see something, if you like something, plan to use it in your classroom, plan for plan B in case your new activity backfires, and then teach that, bring it into the classroom, because it doesn't matter how many books you read, how many webinars you watch, unless things that you learn about find reflection in your teaching practice, that doesn't really matter. So summing up, follow the course book, ask for advice, get your lessons observed, and observe as many lessons as you can. Try and bring something into the classroom the moment you find out about it. And my tip number 5 is, don't worry if you make a couple of mistakes, because, well, it's inevitable. They are going to happen whether we want that or not. But it's okay. This is how we learn. We learn by making mistakes. And, looking back at my first years of teaching, I would have done it so very differently right now. But if I hadn't made those mistakes back then, I wouldn't have blossomed into the teacher that I am today. So it's all good. Don't worry. This is how we learn. We make a mistake, we reflect on that, and we learn some and then move on. So don't worry. Mistakes are going to happen. This is a part of the process. Our next question reads, what's the best platform for teaching? Is it Miro, EdVibe, etc.? And to answer this question, I think what matters is your knowledge of methodology, your language, and your ability to establish meaningful relationship with your students, because you can teach a lesson using any platform at all. It doesn't really matter. I see that your methodology and language is some sort of a foundation, and you can build on that foundation using all sorts of different platforms. Google Classroom, Zoom, Miro, EdVibe, Jamboard. It doesn't matter. You can try whatever platform that works for you and use that with your students. As long as it meets your criteria, as long as it checks all the boxes for you, go for it. Don't worry about it. I think that we may lose track of what's really important if we focus on one platform or another platform. It doesn't really matter. A lot of great lessons that I taught, I just used simple Google Doc, not even Google Slides, just Google Doc, because we were communicating with my students. There was a lot of language that emerged, and it was a great lesson. What makes a great lesson, in my personal opinion, is when my students have a chance to express themselves in the context which is meaningful to them. And you can do that with pretty much any platform. That being said, I personally use Zoom for my lessons because I teach online, and Zoom has breakout rooms because I teach groups. This is essential, so I can break my students into groups. So if I had to choose one platform to teach online, that would be Zoom, of course. And I know that in Zoom you already can send messages in the chat, you can have some sort of a whiteboard, which I don't use, but you can do all of that there. The platform that I use for my lessons is Miro, just because it's very flexible and it kind of gives me a platform to unleash my creativity, because I can create all sorts of things there, like interactive activities, picking things, moving things, drawing there. But again, this is optional. You don't really have to do that. I just do that because I enjoy that. And again, I kind of see that the content, the essence of teaching is methodology and language. And, like little things like platforms are embellishments. I personally use Zoom, Miro, but sometimes I use some interactive activities, again, just because I teach online. I may use Wordwall, I may use learning apps, Edpuzzle, Nearpod. So I kind of have an array of online tools that I use and reuse. And depending on the aim of the activity, like what exactly I want to achieve by completing a certain task, I may pick one of the platforms that works best. By the way, I have a free list of platforms that I use for online teaching. You can download it from my website and just experiment, see what works for you, see what meets your criteria and your goals. And again, remember, it's not about the platform, it's about methodology and language. And the last question that we're going to answer today is going to be, what are the best ways to reach advanced level? This is such a loaded question. There are a lot of things that we can unpack here. I think that we need to bear in mind that language proficiency boils down to long hours of relentless practice. You cannot become an advanced learner overnight. It's hours and hours of hard work. If you think about Cambridge English Assessment, they have estimated that it takes about 200 guided learning hours to progress from one level to another level. So this is guided learning hours, meaning that these are hours that you spend with it. There are way more hours that you need to spend working on the language on your own. It depends on your motivation, it depends on your self-efficacy, it depends on your previous learning experiences, but an approximation is that it would take you 200 guided learning hours to go from one level to another. So you may estimate that getting to an advanced level, you need how many hours? Let me see. So if you count, which I did using the calculator, so if you count, it should take you somewhere from 1,000 to 1,200 guided learning hours to get to advanced level. So if we take 1,200 guided learning hours, let's imagine that you have two classes a week, 1 hour each. So that would take you 600 weeks to get to C1 level. Let's imagine that you have lessons like every week, you don't skip any lessons at all. It would take you 11 years. So to answer your question, what's the best way to get to C1 is to learn a lot. However, I would imagine that it's possible that the person asking this question wants to know, how do we get from like B2 to C1? And it is true, it is a very common problem that a lot of advanced learners, upper intermediate learners face this problem, so they can't kind of get this level just because there is this law of diminishing returns. What I mean is that when you enter a class as a beginner, and I can testify to that as a beginner Indonesian student myself, like the first lesson you enter the class, you learn 10 new words. You know 0 words, and now by the end of the class, you know 10 words. Amazing. You've learned so much. The growth is exponential. And then imagine that you're a B2 student. You already know, let's say, 10,000 of words. And then you learn 10 more by the end of the lesson. The progress is tiny. You don't really feel it. You don't feel like you're making progress. So this knowledge is accumulating, but it feels that you are getting less progress, and you're feeling that you're getting fewer results, which is totally okay. This is how it works. One more phenomena that could affect your perception of progress, that could be your selective attention. For example, if you are a B2 learner thinking that, oh my God, I'm not making any progress, chances are you will notice confirmation of this belief that you have in your head, like, yes, I'm not making any progress. Look at me, I've been learning English for like 20 years, and there are still so many words that I don't know. It kind of works the same way. Let's say that, your friends bought a new car, and then you go outside and you can see that there are a lot of cars that look the same way, that are the same color, the same make. So your brain kind of highlights things which you already noticed. Or let's say that you found a new word in an English book, or in a film that you were watching, and then this word kind of starts following you. It's haunting you. So you see it everywhere. The word has always been there. You just didn't notice it. So our selective attention works like that. Whenever something gets into our system, we start noticing this thing everywhere we go. So when you get this belief into your system that I'm not making progress, I'm not a C1 learner yet, you will find confirmations of this very belief. So you kind of have to like fake it till you make it, say, yeah, I am such an amazing learner. Look at me, I'm learning so much. So you kind of program your brain, you kind of trick your brain into believing that you are making progress. And yet then you will notice little things that confirm this very belief. One more tip that I would suggest, that would be diversify your learning routine. Because once you get to a very good level like B2, which is like sufficient for most of the goals and most of the, context, career, leisure, whatever. B2 is a fabulous level to get by in pretty much any situation that you come across. So once you get to this level, chances are the things that you have been trying and dealing with, they may no longer work. It's kind of akin to going to the gym. When you do the same exercise over and over, your muscles grow. Can you tell that I don't go to the gym? So like if you do the same exercise over and over, it will slowly lose its efficacy. So at first you may gain some progress, but then as time moves on, you will see that it's not doing as much as it used to. So my advice would be try and do something that you have never tried before. If you attended one-to-one classes, sign up for a group class. If you never practiced writing, try practicing writing more. Vary the intensity of your lessons. Let's say that you had like a long 2-hour learning session. Try breaking it down into manageable components, like a little micro learning session, 15 minutes each. Or try and study with a new course book. Try doing something which is like outside of your learner's comfort. And this, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our first pilot episode of Yuliya's Sips and Tips. No, it was Sips and Solutions. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments if this format works for you. Should we keep on going? Yes, no, what do you think? Especially positive comments are welcome. If you don't like it, please don't comment on it. I don't want to see that. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you found this video useful, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye!